In the bustling heart of Silicon Valley, amidst a backdrop of innovative tech headquarters and sleek office complexes, stood the impeccable glass-fronted Grandeur Auto Gallery. The midday sun cast gleaming reflections across the rows of high-end sports cars and luxury SUVs displayed like jewels inside, as Randall, the unassuming man behind the acquisition of this top-tier dealership, drove into the parking lot. The crisp ocean breeze mingled with the buzz of industry. He parked his modest electric car in a secluded spot at the far end of the lot, his presence unnoticed amid the casual bustle of the affluent shopping district. Randall exited his vehicle, dressed in nothing that screamed affluence, a simple black hoodie, slightly faded jeans, and a pair of old running shoes. His choice of attire was intentional, a test to gauge the authenticity and customer service ethos of his newly acquired venture, without the veil of status coloring the interactions. As he approached the gleaming entrance of the showroom, he caught snippets of laughter and relaxed chatter from a group of employees gathered near the reception, their conversation drifting through the slightly ajar door. Stepping into the showroom, Randall was struck by the stark contrast of the cool, fragrant air inside, scented subtly with polished leather and the new car aroma that filled the expansive space. The showroom floor, a pristine sea of sparkling vehicles and luxurious trim, quieted down as he made his entrance. Quick glances were exchanged among the staff. Eyes darted towards his understated attire, sizing him up in an instant. Randall took it all in stride, his purpose clear: to observe, to understand the undercurrents of this establishment. Then, amidst the polished chrome and soft hum of ambient music, Margaret made her approach. A woman in her late 40s, Margaret exuded confidence with every step, her sharp eyes scanning efficiently, a tailored suit perfecting her authoritative air. Clipboard in hand, she moved directly towards Randall, her heels clicking decisively on the marble floor. "Good afternoon," Margaret began, her voice carrying a professional edge. "May I assist you with anything particular today?" Randall offered a small, affable smile. "I'm just taking a look around, thanks," he replied, his voice calm and unassuming as he gestured toward the sleek lineup of cars. Margaret's eyes narrowed slightly, assessing his casual demeanor and attire with a hint of skepticism. "Are you in the market for a vehicle?" she inquired, her tone now tinged with a hint of incredulity. "Just exploring options," Randall responded smoothly, his smile steady. Her smile tightened. "I see. Well, our clientele typically undergoes a pre-qualification process for our models. They start in the upper six-figure range," she said, her voice cool, implying the unlikelihood of his purchasing power. Before she could suggest alternatives, another employee interrupted, needing her attention momentarily. She excused herself, her eyes lingering on Randall, ensuring he didn't venture too close to the premium models displayed. Randall, undeterred by the undercurrent of dismissal, raised an eyebrow. "You assume I'm not qualified?" Margaret quickly masked her surprise with a practiced smile. "I'm trying to save you time. These models are quite exclusive." Internally, Randall noted the subtle condescension, but outwardly he maintained his composure. He casually strolled towards a nearby luxury sedan, its lines sleek and inviting. "It's a beautiful car," he commented, his hand hovering near the polished surface. Margaret's expression tightened. "Indeed it is. When you're serious about discussing options, we can schedule an appointment. I'd advise against touching the vehicles in the meantime," she replied, her tone curt. Randall paused, his gaze meeting hers steadily. "What would you recommend for someone like me then?" he asked, challenging her assumptions directly. Caught off guard by his directness, Margaret faltered slightly. "Perhaps something more within a practical budget? There's a dealership specializing in pre-owned models I could recommend." Randall's response was a nod, his expression unreadable as he pulled his hands back, slipping them into his hoodie pocket. "I'm intrigued to hear what you think I need," he stated, his voice even, the air charged with a silent standoff that spoke volumes more than the words exchanged. Randall's faint smile lingered, a barely perceptible curve that didn't quite reach his eyes. He had observed enough for the day. "That's quite the assumption," he remarked softly, his voice carrying through the showroom with an unexpected weight. For a moment, The bustling atmosphere seemed to pause, and Margaret momentarily lost her composed veneer, her posture faltering. Straightening her blazer, she regained her professional demeanor swiftly. "I'll be back with some options," she declared, turning away with a pace that hinted at her irritation. Randall watched her stride across the polished floor, his expression unreadable, reflecting off the shiny surface of a nearby midnight blue convertible. Today was shaping up to be far more interesting than he had anticipated. Standing in the center of the showroom, Randall casually placed his hands in his pockets, his gaze slowly sweeping over the lineup of luxury vehicles. He was no stranger to judgment, accustomed to the hidden meanings behind fleeting glances and hushed tones. Even now, he could sense the eyes on him, the silent assessments echoing the years of experience he had navigating such situations. Margaret returned promptly, the clipboard now clutched in her hands like a lifeline, her steps brisk, and her smile forced. "Here are a few selections that might better suit your needs," she announced, stopping a short distance away and extending a printout toward him. "My needs?" Randall queried, tilting his head slightly, his tone laced with mild curiosity. "Yes," she replied sharply. She handed him a list that detailed several pre-owned models, each a far cry from the showroom's usual high-end fare. "These are more attainable, practical, reliable, and economical." Taking the list, Randall scanned the offerings. A 3-year-old sedan, a high-mileage SUV, and an entry-level hybrid. His lips quivered with a suppressed smile, quickly hidden as he folded the paper neatly and slipped it into his pocket. "Thank you for this," he said, his voice even and controlled. Margaret seemed taken aback by his polite acceptance, her stance relaxing momentarily before she squared her shoulders again. "I'm just trying to be realistic," she confided in a lower tone, as if imparting a hard truth. "Grandeur Auto isn't for everyone. I wouldn't want to waste your time. And what exactly gives you the impression that I'm not your typical client?" Randall asked, his gaze steady and probing. With only the slightest hesitation, Margaret responded, "Experience. I know when someone is out of their element." "Out of their element," Randall echoed thoughtfully, the phrase hanging between them like a challenge. Margaret pressed on, a hint of impatience seeping into her voice. "Being honest is better than letting someone leave disappointed." Randall chuckled softly, shaking his head with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. "Honesty is good. How about we speak directly to the owner? Could we arrange that?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Margaret's face. "The owner?" she echoed, her composed mask slipping. "Yes," Randall continued, his tone casual yet insistent. "I'd like to discuss a few things with them." Margaret's attempt at a reassuring smile faltered. "That's not possible today. The owner is quite busy and doesn't typically drop in unannounced." "I understand." Randall nodded, maintaining his calm demeanor. "Perhaps you could give them a call?" "I believe they'd be interested in this conversation." Margaret's smile tightened further, her patience clearly waning. "Sir, I'm trying to remain as courteous as possible, but this is becoming unreasonable. I have other clients who need attention. If you're serious about a purchase, we can set something up with a sales consultant. Otherwise..." "Otherwise?" Randall interjected, his voice still smooth but now edged with a firmness that filled the space around them. Margaret's eyes narrowed, her professional facade struggling to contain her growing frustration. "Otherwise, I might have to ask you to leave." The statement lingered, heavy and final. Randall remained unflinching, his eyes locked on hers. The showroom, bustling just moments before, seemed to fall silent. He slowly reached into his pocket and retrieved his phone. "Very well," he said, scrolling through his contacts casually. "I'll make the call myself." Margaret watched, perplexed and uncertain. "What are you doing?" "Calling the owner," Randall replied, lifting the phone to his ear. "It won't take long." Margaret's self-assurance wavered, her initial irritation morphing into bewildered uncertainty as she tried to speak, her voice caught in her throat. The attention of several employees had been drawn away from their tasks, their eyes fixed on the tense exchange unfolding in the center of the showroom. Randall held up a finger, signaling for patience, then turned slightly away to speak quietly into his phone. "Yes, it's Randall." I'm at the gallery now. No issues. Just a slight mix-up. Can you inform them I'm here?" His tone was calm, betraying none of the tension that gripped the room. Ending the call, he slid the phone back into his pocket and faced Margaret again. "They should be arriving soon," he stated simply, his voice steady. Margaret stared at him, her expression a mix of shock and confusion. Who were you speaking to?" she managed to ask, her words hesitant. Randall took a moment to look around the showroom, noting the staff's rapt attention. "We'll see soon enough," he replied, a hint of amusement in his voice, adding an intriguing layer to the suspense filling the air. The atmosphere in the showroom was charged, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on everyone present. Margaret shifted from one foot to another, her usual poise crumbling under the strain. She fidgeted with her clipboard, her actions rigid and forced, a clear sign of her growing discomfort. Randall, meanwhile, leaned casually against a polished chrome bumper of a nearby luxury SUV, his relaxed posture in stark contrast to the escalating tension around him. Whispers circulated among the few employees scattered throughout the space, their eyes darting back and forth between Randall and Margaret, eager and anxious for the resolution of this unexpected drama. The sound of the main entrance opening cut through the murmurs, drawing all eyes to the figure who entered. A man in a meticulously tailored navy suit stepped inside, his presence commanding yet approachable, his polished shoes making soft clicks against the sleek tile floor as he walked. His serious expression softened into a warm smile upon seeing Randall. "Mr. Randall," he greeted, extending his hand with a friendly vigor. "It's a pleasure to see you." Randall met his handshake with a firm grip, a subtle smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Thank you for coming down, Michael." "I appreciate it," he said, his voice low and appreciative. The room's tension escalated to near palpable levels. Margaret's grip on her clipboard tightened so much it seemed it might snap. Her eyes flicked rapidly between Randall and the newcomer, Michael, the regional director of the dealership. Her earlier confidence now completely evaporated into sheer panic. "Wait, Mr. Randall," she repeated, her voice trembling. Michael turned to address her, his demeanor shifting seamlessly to a more formal tone. "Margaret, it appears you've met Mr. Randall." Her reaction was one of dawning horror as realization washed over her. I didn't understand." "That he's the owner of Grandeur Auto Gallery," Michael interjected, his voice firm, cutting through any further misunderstanding. He looked at Randall, his face etched with an apologetic grimace. "I hope this wasn't how you expected to be welcomed." Randall raised his hand, signaling for Michael to pause. "It's okay, Michael. It seems we just started on the wrong foot," he remarked, his tone calm, yet carrying an underlying sternness that commanded the room. Margaret stepped back, her face pale, her clipboard clutched against her chest as if it were the only thing keeping her grounded. "I'm terribly sorry," she stuttered, her voice a whisper of its former assertiveness. "I had no idea." "What didn't you know?" Randall inquired, his voice gentle yet firm. "That I could own something like this? That someone who looks like me belongs in this kind of place?" She looked momentarily lost, her mouth opening but failing to form words. Randall held up his hand to stop her attempted explanation. "It's all right, Margaret. Let's not dwell on it." He stepped closer, lowering his voice, compelling everyone to lean in closer. "But think about this. If I weren't the owner, would you have treated me differently? Would you give the same respect to anyone, regardless of how they're dressed?" Her silence was telling, filling the showroom with its heavy implication. Randall turned back to Michael, his demeanor shifting as he took control of the situation. "Let's get everyone together in the conference room. We need to discuss our approach to customer service and expectations." As the staff hesitantly moved toward the conference room, the sleek, modern design of the space seemed more oppressive than impressive, a stark backdrop to the lesson about to be imparted. Margaret sat somewhat secluded at the rear of the conference room, her typical poised demeanor replaced by a nervous tension that seemed to radiate from her. Randall stood confidently at the head of the table, his relaxed posture contrasting starkly with the palpable anxiety filling the room. Michael lingered by the doorway, his arms folded across his chest, his face an unreadable mask as he surveyed the room, observing as the staff cautiously took their seats. The soft buzz of whispered conversations abruptly ceased as Randall cleared his throat, his eyes methodically scanning the assembled group. "Thank you all for gathering at such short notice," he began, his voice both calm and commanding. "For those who are unaware, my name is Randall Carter, and as of last month, I am the new owner of Grandeur Auto Gallery." This revelation stirred a wave of murmurs among the employees, their expressions a mix of curiosity and dismay. Margaret seemed to shrink further into her chair, her eyes fixed firmly on the polished table before her. "I chose to visit today incognito for a specific purpose," Randall continued, his tone deliberate. "I wanted to personally understand how our dealership is perceived by those who walk through our doors, by someone who isn't immediately recognized as the owner. Unfortunately, what I experienced was quite disheartening. I was judged solely on my appearance, not on what I might contribute or possess." The room remained silent, absorbing the weight of his words. Margaret fidgeted, her complexion reddening as Randall's gaze momentarily flickered towards her before addressing the room at large. "This issue extends beyond a single interaction," he emphasized. "It reflects on how we treat every potential customer who doesn't fit the conventional image of a luxury car buyer." A young sales associate timidly raised his hand, and Randall acknowledged him with a nod. "Please, go ahead." "Mr. Carter," the young man started, his voice laced with apprehension, "many of us do strive to treat all customers fairly, but it's challenging at times not to harbor some assumptions." Randall nodded understandingly. "I appreciate that honesty," he responded. "We all harbor biases, often subconsciously. However, it's not sufficient to merely attempt fairness. We must actively confront and challenge these prejudices to foster an environment where respect is paramount, irrespective of someone's appearance or background." He paused, allowing his message to resonate. "This dealership has established a reputation for excellence, which should encompass not only our products, but also the quality of service we provide. From this point forward, our commitment will be to ensure that every customer, every visitor receives a respectful, inclusive experience." A subtle wave of nods flowed through the room, though some attendees appeared still hesitant, unsure of the forthcoming changes. Randall's gaze then settled on Margaret, who seemed momentarily paralyzed, her hands tightly clasped. "Margaret," he addressed her with a blend of firmness and gentleness, "would you like to share your thoughts?" All eyes pivoted towards her. She hesitated, her voice a faint whisper when she spoke. I made an error in judgment," she confessed, her face now visibly flushed. "I misjudged you, Mr. Carter, and I am deeply sorry for that." Randall maintained a neutral expression. "Thank you for your candor," he replied. "This incident should serve as a lesson for us all, not just you. Real change begins with accountability." He turned his attention back to the room. "We will be introducing new training initiatives to ensure our values are clearly represented in every interaction here. Every client deserves dignity and respect, without exception. If anyone has reservations about this direction, now is the time to express them." Silence enveloped the room, heavy and introspective, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning. No one spoke, but the seriousness of Randall's statement lingered, pressing upon each individual. After a moment, Randall spoke again, his voice resolute. "Very well," he said. "I am pleased we are unified in this. Change is seldom easy, but it is essential, and it's time Grandeur Auto Gallery sets the standard." Randall stepped back from the conference table, his hands lightly touching its edge as he leaned forward, addressing the room with a resolute clarity. "I want to be absolutely clear. I didn't visit today to embarrass anyone. I came to evaluate the culture I've stepped into and to discuss how we can collectively improve it." His gaze drifted to Margaret, who had maintained a reserved silence at the back of the room. "Margaret," he began, softening his tone just enough to convey his intention was not to chastise. "You're a seasoned manager, and your dedication to reaching this position is evident. However, today served as a crucial reminder for both you and the entire team." Margaret looked up, her eyes meeting his, a mix of acknowledgement and resolve in her expression. "I understand," she articulated, her voice trembling slightly but imbued with sincerity. I accept my mistake, and I am committed to making amends. Randall nodded in response. I value the power of second chances, he stated. Accountability is the first step. We will have a detailed discussion individually to outline the way forward. For now, let's focus on progress. He straightened up, shifting his attention back to the rest of the staff. Here at Grandeur Auto Gallery, we're not just selling luxury vehicles. We're fostering trust, nurturing relationships, and upholding a standard of excellence. If you're ready to embrace these values, you have my full support. The response was a resonant murmur of agreement, more heartfelt and robust than before. The initial stiffness in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. Even Michael, who had remained a silent observer by the door, gave a nod of approval. A faint smile crossed Randall's face, a reflection of both relief and resolute determination. Excellent. Let's return to our roles, and always remember, the way we treat our clients reflects the core of who we are. As the team began to disperse, Randall noticed Margaret hesitating by the door. She approached him slowly, her hands nervously intertwined. Mr. Carter, she started, her voice low and earnest. I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to correct my course. I won't disappoint you. Randall regarded her thoughtfully for a moment, then replied with measured calm. I trust that you will uphold your words with actions, Margaret. Change is achieved through persistent effort, and I believe in the potential for growth. She nodded, a sincere determination in her gaze. I will make the necessary changes. As Margaret exited, Randall turned to Michael. Let's schedule a follow-up meeting with the entire staff for next week, he instructed. It's crucial everyone is clear on our expectations moving forward. Michael's expression showed a mixture of admiration and agreement. Absolutely, boss. Stepping back into the showroom, Randall paused to survey the space, its gleaming surfaces catching the late afternoon sunlight. He contemplated the significant endeavors ahead, but felt a burgeoning optimism. This venture was more than just managing a dealership. It was about cultivating an environment where respect and integrity were paramount, where every individual, staff, or customer was valued for their character above all else. Randall was prepared to lead this transformative journey, confident in the path laid out before him. In 2025, the story of Randall Carter and Grandeur Auto Gallery serves as a compelling blueprint for businesses aiming to adapt to the evolving demands of a modern, socially conscious marketplace. Through Randall's leadership, we witness the transformative power of embodying inclusivity and respect within a corporate environment. His approach not only highlights the necessity of adapting to diverse consumer bases, but also emphasizes the value of internal culture in driving business success. This narrative underscores the idea that true excellence in business extends beyond products or services offered. It is deeply rooted in how a company treats its customers and employees. Organizations looking to thrive in 2025 and beyond should take note of this example. By fostering an environment where every individual feels valued and understood, businesses can enhance their reputation, attract a broader client base, and generate a more dedicated workforce. Implementing regular training programs that challenge biases and promote fairness, as Randall did, can be instrumental in crafting a more inclusive atmosphere that aligns with contemporary values and expectations. This approach not only meets the ethical demands of the modern consumer, but also sets a standard for leadership in a competitive market. Join us in championing Randall Carter's mission to transform Grandeur Auto Gallery into a beacon of inclusivity and respect in the auto industry. Show your support by leaving comments and sharing your thoughts on how Randall can continue to foster an environment of fairness and integrity. What initiatives would you like to see implemented next at the dealership? How can Randall further enhance the customer experience to reflect the values of diversity and acceptance? Let's rally behind Randall as he sets a new standard for business ethics and customer interaction. Your suggestions and encouragement can help guide his next steps and ensure that the dealership not only meets but exceeds the expectations of its diverse clientele. Speak up, share your ideas, and be a part of this exciting journey towards a more inclusive future. Together we can help Randall lead the way in making a meaningful impact in the community and the industry.